What's up, everyone? Zero here. So today, Grinding Gear Games had their big announcement for Path of Exile 2. I wanted to make a quick video just doing a basic recap of some of the important things that I felt should be highlighted, just to save you guys some time so you don't have to watch the whole announcement and 2.5 hour podcast that was afterwards. We will be getting patch notes for all this stuff, so there is going to be a more in-depth video that I will make, but just to touch on some things for you guys, they are going to make the maps more rewarding. They are adding 4 more tower types, and they are changing the lost towers as well so that they're not so obstructive, where you can actually see where you're going and it's not so narrow, pretty much a death trap for anybody who has to be up close in combat. They are making the bosses spawn more often on the maps. Apparently that was supposed to already be happening. They're also adding a boss precursor tablet, so you'll be able to add bosses around the towers. They are buffing the strong boxes, so that means that the fog's going to be less dense and the monsters are going to be appearing more often and faster. The visibility in the maps, they are tuning that way up, so the on-death effects are going to be more visible. Some of the monster skills and effects are going to be way more visible. They are changing the zoom level on the Atlas map, thank God. So we will now be able to zoom out more. They are putting the biome on the Atlas node itself. So when you pull up the Atlas, you'll be able to see the biome, whether it's forest, desert, water, etc. They're adding some various buffs to Simulacrum. They are also buffing the Omen drop rate, from my understanding. I think they said 60%. I could have that wrong. I will correct that once we get the patch notes. The Citadels, they are going to start spawning closer to the center, so they're going to be easier to find. You will also be able to see them through the fog, so you will know where you have to path to. Be a lot easier to find Citadels in the end game. For me, this was a huge W. They're giving 6 portals for the Arbiter of Ash and other Pinnacle content. They said right now it's just for the Arbiter of Ash and a couple of other ones that don't require you to travel through a map to get to. For those, they're going to have to add like some sort of checkpoint system so you can't just keep rerunning the map. They said pretty much all Pinnacle bosses that aren't going to require a map to get to are going to have those 6 portals once the patch goes live. Unique items are getting a huge buff. They gave us a few examples right here, but they will release a more detailed list, I'm sure, once the patch notes come out, so we will cover it then. Same thing with rare items. They are also getting a buff. They talked about the modifiers that are worse rolling less, and then the modifiers that are better rolling more. I'm sure we're going to get a more detailed explanation of what exactly they're going to be doing once the patch notes come out. And finally, we are going to be able to overwrite our runes. So if there's a rune in your item, we will be able to click and remove it and overwrite it with another rune. That is a huge, huge W. Moving on to the podcast portion of the live stream. A few of the questions that they had asked, I don't think that they were really prepared for, just because of them being on vacation. Couple of things though, the Spectres are coming very soon, so that's going to be really good for minion builds. They are going to be adding a map stash tab finally, so that's really, really needed. He said that's going to be coming as soon as possible. As it stands right now, he said no change to Ascendancy, so I'm guessing that they just want those 7th and 8th points to be really, really, really meaningful. I don't know how many casual people are going to be getting those, but it seemed like he wasn't too concerned about the casual people getting them. To be honest with you, a couple of their answers seemed pretty out of touch. Another thing that they're going to be doing is once you outrun your minions, they are going to revive instantly instead of waiting on the timer. But as I mentioned, a couple of questions that they had asked, their answers seemed really, really out of touch. I'll give you an example of it right here. Have a listen. This is when Darth asks him about warriors and his experience playing a warrior through the campaign.
Point where there's Pinnacle bosses, and then you can kind of one-shot Pinnacle bosses with some of the setups currently. So there's a mid portion of the middle to later in-game in which it feels like a problem, specifically because you have things like volatiles that actually track you, and if you stay in position, you're heavily punished. So it seems counterintuitive to the design of some of the mobs.
I do think that there is a problem in game here. I'm not exactly sure what we need to do about it yet, though. I'm glad to hear you say that it's an in-game issue and not a campaign issue, because I have to say that my experience playing Warrior through campaign is actually that it's fine. But I did hear a bunch of people talking about that as if that was not fine, and I think that it is. Like, I think, or at least I can't reproduce the issue during campaign if that's the case.
Okay, I'm going to have this dude share his build with me, because every single warrior that I've talked to during the campaign just uses the basic attack because it's way better than everything else. Every VOD I watch, everybody that's playing a warrior during the campaign, they just use the basic attack with some skill gems in it. So I don't know what he is talking about. A couple of other instances, like for instance, when he was talking about the ascendancy, that was kind of weird to me, how he was saying like, oh, the more casual players are barely even going to get to maps. It just seemed like a really out of touch answer. But hopefully, you know, this is early access. Things are going to be changing drastically. So they were also asked about ascendancies and being able to respec ascendancies. And they essentially said that they weren't in favor of doing that, but they didn't really have a reason. Hopefully, you know, they'll discuss it some more and we'll be able to respec ascendancies, because we were able to do that in PoE 1. And with the campaign being as long as it is, I really don't see the reason behind keeping that the way it is right now. So if you wanted to experiment with your character, you would have to keep making a new character if you wanted to try out a different ascendancy. Hopefully they do change that. Another thing that they touched on was crafting. And from what it sounds like, they really want it to be more RNG based, which is fine. But they did say that with more crafting options that it will feel a lot better. So they implied that they had intentions on growing the Omen system and growing the Essence system. They're also going to be doing some stuff with ritual crafting. So hopefully, you know, as early access goes on, we'll start seeing some more options and it'll start feeling a little bit better. But they did seem like they really want it to be RNG based, which is kind of a bummer for me, but hey, I'll learn to live with it. I mean, it's early access. Things are going to change a lot. So once the patch notes come out for this, I will make a more detailed video and kind of break everything down for you guys. I just wanted to go over just the basic stuff with you. I really find it weird what he was talking about with the warrior. Hopefully he does some more play testing and can kind of see what it is that we're talking about. Because when you have these long wind-ups and swings and you're getting rushed by mobs, it doesn't really feel too good. So hopefully they work on it. That's pretty much it. I will be making some more guides and walkthroughs throughout the week. So yeah, stay tuned. I will see you guys next time. Peace.